Yo, yo. Yeah, we live. We coming through. See. Uh, yep, we in there. All right. We Gucci. What's going on? What's happening? All that good stuff. As y'all see, we live with the next episode of Train of Thought. This has been delayed like 2 weeks, unfortunately, due to IRL stuff. I normally do it on Saturdays, but since the time availability was good for the day, I said, you know what? Why not do it today? Hold on. Had to adjust that real quick. But yeah. So, as mentioned, as you see the title of the episode called Don't Mind Me, pretty much a play off of the topic that we'll be talking about today, which is mind games and fighting games. I usually like to have a lot of fun with titles, but not try to be a little clever and all that good stuff. So we're going to be discussing mind games. So, don't mind me, as you see, mind, brain, all that. Like I said, I try to have a little bit of purpose with what I talk about. Try to have a little clever little links, all that good stuff. So we all know, for anybody that plays fighting games on an above average level, or somewhat competitive, you may have heard the term mind games whenever fighting games are talked about. So that usual question, per se, what exactly is mind game? Most people, like I said, we hear this term. We bad. I didn't have that right there. Yeah, we hear that term, but what are mind games? Well, I tell you. Mind games is a plethora of strats used to combat the opponent mentally. When playing fighting games, you have to keep in mind that as it is a physical, i.e. playing on controller, arcade stick, hitbox, keyboard, whatever, your weapon of choice, Battle of the Minds is just as prevalent, if not a little more of a factor. So you always have to keep in mind that while you are playing, while you are, executing on the controller, this, that, and the third, you frame that and all that, that the mind games are in effect. And you have to be mentally prepared. You are and everything else. I believe that personally, this is a trait or quality that is the most neglected when you're talking about fighting games. Common stuff you may hear is, frame data, offense, things of that nature. Now, the funny part about it is that all these elements tie into each other. So I'm not gonna sit here and act like that's wrong or that's incorrect, but going into detail on things is important to further help people that may not understand these concepts, to help them understand. Especially if you're newer players, if you just fresh in the fighting game, come into the scene and you're interested in possibly becoming competitive, possibly, joining the FGC, possibly being more than a casual, like all that. So that's one key reason why I started this podcast, was to help shed light on these concepts and further give insight, especially considering the experience that I have, being that I've competed for about a decade now. And it's always good to give back and share knowledge and share information. To me, that's important. If you learn something, why not pass it on and help somebody else out? You know what I mean? Whoops. Keyboard or my pad definitely just played me right there. But mind game tactics. Now, some of these you may remember from past episodes, such as the offensive end. The mix-ups, 50-50s, and flow charts and all that. That also falls under mind games. And I'm going to go into detail with each one. With first, starting off with, of course, the mix-ups and 50-50s. Now, we all know what those things are, but you're wondering how did this go into mind games? Well, think about it. Mix-ups and 50-50s are a game of making the opponent guess. So with guessing, you have to think. You have to use your mind to help you navigate through the situation. And how that's a mind game, you could use a specific mix-up over and over, or you could use a plethora of mix-ups and 50-50s. This is a way to mentally even, jar your opponent. Like your opponent could get frustrated and wonder why, I keep doing this, or no, they're not gonna do it again. No, they're not gonna do it again, or no, they got it's literally a mind game. Like one of my favorite mix-ups is the no mix-up. And what that is exactly, you doing the same thing over and over without changing. And that is a mind game, because your opponent, especially if the opponent ends up respecting you, they're going to keep inputting in their mind that they're not going to do it again because I've seen it and I know how to punish it. Yet you're in such of a mind, like a Jedi mind trick, that you mix yourself up and thinking they might not do it again, when in actuality they do it again and you get hit by it, even though you may mentally have the knowledge to combat what they're doing, but the way they're using it, you don't necessarily are prepared for. And to me, that's actually the most effective way to apply a mix-up in 50-50 and actually to make it work. To make it work. It fully works. Now, see, that's the thing. Now, the dangerous part about this mind game, the risk that comes with it is if the opponent reads you. But at that moment, then that's when the next part for me is having flow charts. Flow charts are not bad if implemented correctly. So if you know a person is reading you, you would then switch it up. Like I said, remember, this is a mental battle, much as it is, putting them inputs in on the controller. So flow charts, you would pretty much just use them kind of in a way to condition your opponent, because even conditioning part of mind games as well. I didn't really put that on here because you can kind of just refer to the last episode, which is Under These Conditions, and that whole episode is about conditions. But that even falls into this as well. I guess I could have put it up there, but I wanted to talk about some other stuff too that is a mind game that you may not even realize or think about. The flow charts effectively will keep the opponent on toes, and in their mind they'll begin to start guessing. And then one of my favorite things to do is when you get an opponent to overthink Overthinking is definitely an offense done by all of us, especially in the tournament set. Like if you put yourself in like a tourney set and that set is short, you know, it's 2 out of 3. So you thinking to yourself like, oh man, you might be scared, you might be anxious, you might be all of these things. So your mind is kind of doing like mental gymnastics at the moment. And if a person is using a flow chart on you, you're in most cases trying to end it as soon as possible. Like, oh man, I might be getting like, I know I use Mishimas a lot, but that's such a common example and like the quickest to understand. And since people, probably every person, especially if you played online, have dealt with it on the Hell Sweep Vortex. And you can implement that into a flow chart. You can. Because since wave dashing is involved in that, you may have a point where you might do a sequence where you may do a mid, and then you may do an electric, and then you may hell sweep, or you may hell sweep, then do a mid, and then do electric. Like you switch up the way you do things. Or you may wave dash into a grab. Like these all can be put to a chart and used in different ways to keep your opponent thinking, keep them guessing and on their toes. So flow charts are great to implement to cause this as well. In order to effectively flow chart though, I highly suggest to you that you have more than one. You can't just have one because like Casanova mentioned, when you become easy to read and then you kind of don't know how to turn off that flow chart, then, you know, the mind game won't work. Your opponent is on to you. Okay, that's dead. What do I do now? So it's like, it's good to have more than one. Like I always refer to it, but the homie Mike ATL from Atlanta on his YouTube has a video about flow charting. If you want further insight on that, I recommend you check that out. Mike ATL, like microphone, the beginning of microphone, MIC, and then underscore ATL. I think it's an underscore on his YouTube, or it may just be Mike and then ATL, like separate. But be sure to check that out. That's a real good vid. Next up, taunting. This is definitely a mind game. I be hearing a lot of people be feeling a type of way about people key charging, just doing things to further irk and aggravate. And that's a mind game. And how, you wonder, how is it a mind game? Well, if it can get you to get bent out of shape and react a certain way or make you take a risk, the mind game was effective then. Like if a person is, say like, for example, a bear player is doing the little dance taunt and then canceling, and you react to it and do something like brash, and then they block and destroy you, block punish you and destroy you for it, that was a mind game. It's not that you had to necessarily even attack, but that antic caused you to attack. And you put in your mind, okay, I can attack him at this point. I could hit him. He's being, doing this and the third. And then once that happens, now they continue to taunt. And then taunting isn't even not even just in that form. Taunting is also in real life too. Like, perfect person to bring that up is Pork Chop. The rocking in his chair, the remarks, all of this falls under mind game. Like, and if your opponent gets uneasy, or who knows, they may even get angry, they may even their reaction And if you can get them to react and they take that in the battle, that mind game is already, you've already planted the seed right there. And it's something that they thinking about. Oh man, okay, this dude want to play like this, that, and the third. And depending on their reaction, it may be exactly what they wanted you to do. They may have wanted you to get angry. They may have wanted you to get bent out of shape. It's all dependent on what their goal, what their motive is. Like, and from there, that's we usually see what type of match it's going to be too. Even a lot of cases, especially if it's against two people who are like rivals. Definitely see it then. Like the Yomi changes. You know, the mind games will be clearly in effect then. It's usually interesting to watch them kind of matches too. I definitely enjoy like good taunting because it can make the fight a little more interesting, and it shows whose composure is better too. Because like I said, I know some people that as soon as they get taunted, their composure goes out the window. And you can see it. You can see it in their face. You can see it in their gameplay. Like everything they tell on themselves. They can't hide it. They can't conceal it. And usually it could either be a power up or it could be just a burning fire, like, and just burn to the ground. Taunt is probably the most unique out of this because it's something that can come either in game or in real life, and you got to be ready for both if you want to combat against it. Like your composure. This is why I tell people one of the biggest weapons that can counteract mind games is composure. Because think about it, when you're composed, this is with anything in life, you can assess the situation the way you need to and then give the best reaction that you can. Case in point, the episode where I talked about punishment or why so defensive, that episode of the podcast, I bring up having, you know, the composure or whatnot to be able to assess what the person is doing and counter it. You gotta have composure. Composure is pretty much just thinking clearly. And with mind games are there to not make you think clearly, but in order to counter that, you have to be composed to think clearly. It said the mental warfare in fighting games is like, that's the part that we don't always see, don't always talk about, and kind of just put under the rug. Like, okay, what's going on? Why did they do that? That's why you hear questions of, well, why did they do this? Why did they do that? What led to that? You get those questions. And that's the part that we sometimes can't see. And you really only will know about that part unless you talk to said player. Talk to said person. Like, why you do that? Well, I saw he was doing this, so I tried to do this, and this is what happened. You know, that's usually how that conversation takes place. But like I said, in some cases though, the mind game can sometimes translate, you know, to where everybody can see, like the lack of composure and the way people, like, sometimes it can, but a lot of times the mental war is unseen. Most of it is unseen, but some of it can be seen. But that's the bit on taunting. I just had to kind of spend a little more time on that one since it's the most unique out of all of these. Like this next one is very common, especially if you're a competitive player. All competitive players know about this. You know it, you love it, you also may hate it. Counter picking. Oh man, counter picking. And the interesting thing about counter picking though is it can come in various forms. Whether it's character to character, maybe a level may give you an advantage. It's all types of stuff. This mind game usually occurs at the selection screen. Now, dealing with it is also unique too because, again, counter picking is to counter what you've done. So, way to counter that is you knowing this knowledge. You're going into the match knowing the disadvantages that you have. So how can you flip them disadvantages to kind of play in your favor? This one is also unique too, because it's kind of, you have the answer, so what are you gonna do type of situation. Like, for instance, let's say go to Tekken. We have Fahkumram where his lows are pretty much generally -13 or higher on block. You're fighting like maybe Leo or Kazuya. You know, they have really good while standing punishment tool. And you going into that matchup, you like, okay, I already know that if I go for said moves, they may try to look for these and punish accordingly. So with you knowing that, you already can be a step ahead of your opponent. Feel me? But again, like I said, this could be a double-edged sword because you can also fall victim to counter pick. Lose just because it's a counter pick. You know, I'm going over both sides of the spectrum because it's important to know how to apply the mind game, but also fight the mind game. But like I just said, the other lows are -13 higher, so you know, okay, I gotta be wary of how I use these. It doesn't mean to eliminate them from your arsenal, because a lot of players let that mind game counter picking get to their mind, like, oh man, he done picked my worst matchup, so now I can't do this. No, can't think like that. And for starters, when you do that, you make the job of the opponents that much easier to beat you. Especially if one of those tools is quote unquote one of your character's best tools, you eliminate it. And you have to think of it as when you eliminate options, you're limiting yourself. And when you limit yourself, the chances of defeat and you losing are like that much higher. So again, with knowing about counter, when you know something is a counter pick and you know that, okay, I gotta play with a little bit more structure, I can't be too crazy with this. Okay, that's you building the counter to that mind game. Because counter picking is indeed a mind game. The reason why it's a mind game is because, like I said, it starts at the select screen and your opponent may wait for you to see who you pick and then go dart straight for counter. So, and once them selections are locked in, you now have to deal with what's about to come. It's, you know, a lot of people throw shade at the strategy, but I can respect it because you have to remember, this is competition. This is competitive. So you're going to do what you need to do to win. Honestly, I respect it. Nah, I ain't going to front. I used to turn my nose up to it. As I, you know, further competed in the years and years, and the more years of experience started to add, I started to understand why that's done. And nah, you know, I can respect it. I respect the concept of it. And that also helps you, you know, while understanding it also will give you a better understanding of how to deal with it too. Magus, what's going on? AKA clip that president. What's happening? But yeah, it'll help you combat that. Because the best way to counter something is to understand it. Because when you can understand it, you'll get to a solution that much faster, as opposed to, you know, what's the common thing you hear? Somebody lose to something. I don't know the matchup. I don't know how to. What I say in that one episode, the Hercules. It was just a bunch of tricks. But you know, that's what that is. So you can understand counter picking. It'll definitely aid you in doing it, combating against it. Like I said, I told you I call them Hercules. That's what I call them. But next up, time scamming. That is definitely a mind game. It's frowned upon in cases because, you know, like, oh, you can get in there and fight. Guess what? The person that can control the time or take advantage of the time, I should say, they have a nice chance of winning too. And the reason why I say this is, if they do other things like gain momentum, control the life lead, the usual spiel that you always hear, time scamming can be like extremely effective. And by time scamming, it's not just necessarily just running the clock down to zero. You have to realize in most fights you have 60 seconds or 99 seconds, however long the timer is. And with that, you can utilize it. Scamming could come in a plethora of ways. You could use a throw or move that has a whole lot of animation to it just to burn seconds off the clock. Like, there's a myriad of ways to scam time. Or if you just stay back, wait, you know, play super slow, or, you know, it's so many ways to use it. And I think it's a very underrated strategy when it comes to fighting games, because people be so focused on getting the health bar to zero, which is, it's the goal. The goal is to do that, but that's not the only way to win. Yo, Arm to Armor, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. What's up? But yeah, that's not the only way to win. Because yes, getting the health bar to zero usually is the primary goal for people, but the general goal is to win. You want the W. You gotta remember, it's more than one round, so you may get the person's health to zero, and then they switch it up, and then you can't get their health to zero, but then you lose because time, you know, you didn't, your awareness on time wasn't good. You like, oh damn, you trying to set this up, and meanwhile they scamming the clock. And then usually when you notice that too late, then your mind goes into scramble mode, and now you're just trying to do something in sake of gaining an advantage again. Little do you know, Yusef, what's going on? But little do you know that that's probably kind of what they wanted you to do. And then when they get the reaction that they're looking for, they then respond accordingly. And now you done got hit or done fell for it, and your mind is like done. Like, you sitting there frustrated. Like, one thing about mind games is that when they effective, it's like I said, it's really hard to hide and conceal. Especially if y'all sitting right next to each other. Oh my God, it's definitely hard to hide it then. Like, when I'm playing certain people, and then like if they're the type of player that wears their emotion on the sleeve, oh, I'm definitely going to do certain stuff to get you agitated just because I see it's working. When I see it's working, I'm like, okay, yeah, you apply pressure. Continue hitting them with the mind game. And time scamming, oh man, that could be one of the most frustrating things for some players to deal with, especially them players that love to just brawl. I time scam on them the most because they're focused on just banging, you know. And in a lot of cases, they don't think about stuff like life leads or time on the clock and stuff like that because they're so intent at getting in the range 0 and just banging it out. And while that can be entertaining to watch, quote unquote, that ain't even always entertaining. It's not always entertaining. You're not thinking about time. And if one player is thinking about it and the other is not, the chances of the player that's thinking about it could possibly be higher to win. Especially if they structure what they're doing to take full advantage. Like, case in point, I give you a sequence. Let's say, okay, round 1 fight happens, and then they start the round off with a grab. Okay, you didn't break the grab, so they got a little bit of damage. Now, they back off. Burn off a potential 5 to maybe even 10 seconds. Now, you just lost. You just lost right there. 10 seconds. Nothing really happened for you. So now, with you knowing that, you're going to end up possibly scrambling to even make up for that. You might try to go for that big counter hit, or you might try to go for that big launcher, or that big wrist, that 50-50, whatever it is. And that may be what said player wanted you to do. But they get the reaction that they wanted. Then it's like kind of like hook, line, sinker. Okay. Now you get bopped for doing that. And then they find another way to scam time. They might, let's say the super doesn't stop the clock, or it does stop the clock, because even stopping the clock is effective too. It's like it's like a sports game, even football. Let's say, when a team is out of timeouts, one tactic they might do to use proper clock management is they may throw the ball for like a short pass, something like that, usually to the outside. Well, yeah, pretty much almost every time to the outside, to get the receiver, whoever, the running back, receiver, wide receiver, whatever, to tight end, whoever catches it at the time, to run out of bounds to stop the clock. So they're getting yardage, but they're also managing the clock. That's kind of just what I just described with the scenario I just gave you. They're managing the time, using it to their advantage, which is all time scamming is. You can't just look at time scamming as just simply running down the clock. You have to look at it as management of time. That's how you have to look at it. And that in itself is a mind game, because it could mentally put you on tilt. In a sense, it could make you be overzealous. It can make you, a little less apprehensive to do something. Like, it could do, the response can vary. And that's why it's a legit mind game. That's why when I talk to newer players, I tell them to keep your awareness up, because you have good awareness. Getting scammed out of time, it's going to be harder to do on you, because since you're paying attention much as they are, that awareness combined, you can counter that. If that makes sense. Because that's all they do in sports games. when they're in a scenario where they gotta make something happen and the clock may possibly even be against them, they use antics to manage that and make it work for them. That's how you counter that. It's a very legit tactic. Like I said, as you can see, I related it to sports. And that's why fighting games and sports, they mesh well with each other, because the scenarios are so similar in the sense that, you know, they're both competitive. And since the goal is to win, you use antics, plays, whatever, you know, you want to call it, to win. That's all this is. And last but not least, lag utilization. This usually is primarily online, but it can even exist offline depending on the setup you're playing on. But it's primarily an online tactic, especially if you're doing things that are hard to react to online. And these usually are dirtbag players usually. Like I said, I can't really, I'm kind of torn because I can't really be mad at it because you're doing what you need to do in. But I also despise it because of the lag itself. So yeah, I put it that way. It's not necessarily even the player that I'm solely despised by. It's the lag that irks me even more, because the lag affects both of us in a sense. But since you're used to playing it and utilizing it, it's not gonna affect you as much as it affects me, or vice versa. But it definitely can be a mind game, because it could put a player on tilt, and you may, you know, then you'll get stuff like, I can't punish like how I normally can. I can't get this max damage like how I normally can. Like, it can affect you and get to you. Why you think people blood be boiling when they play ranked? This is why. Like, if you're going against a player that utilizes it well, it is annoying to do. I'm not even gonna hold you up. It is sickening. Especially them players that just seem to just whack button, like they just smack their face against whatever they play on. And it seems no matter what they doing, it works. It's like, oh my God, you were sitting next to me, I'd be ready to punch you or something like that. Like, that's how some players may feel. I'm not saying I recommend you doing that, because, you know, that could lead to a whole nother issue, but neither here or there. But it definitely can put you in a space and in a place where your mind, you're gonna be off. You're not gonna play as good as you normally could play. You're just, it's just not gonna be there. I see this type of complaint about this in almost every group, Twitter thread, all that. This is probably out of all 6 of these, might be the most common thing complained about nowadays. Even more than counterpicking, even more than taunting, even more than mix-ups, even more than flowcharts. Especially now, since we can't play offline for real. So the increases went up, you know, thanks to Corona. Shout outs to Corona on that. But it is indeed a mind game. And if I had to say to counter this, you could fight fire with fire, or simply had a mind state that, you know, this is just online and, you know, have fun with it. That's all I can really say to that. But I know usually if it's like an online tournament or something like that, you're probably going to go with the fight fire with fire option. And so you may now start to do stuff that they may not be able to deal with And now it's just who can utilize it better. And again, it's war to decides then. Like it's an equal ground. You know, in the sense of who's utilizing, like, okay, I'm doing this one. Guess what? I'm gonna do this. Oh, you doing this now? Well, I'm gonna do this. It's usually funny watching like online matches at times, because then you'll see some absolute like, yo, this 3-bar nonsense. Like, you'll call it that, or this 2-bar or whatever, this bar nonsense. And or the rollback, this doing this, or lack of rollback, I should say. And like in Street Fighter 5, if somebody teleporting, it's, you know, you saw them jump in the air and you went to DP to anti-air, but then a moment later you see yourself getting hit and then KO comes on the screen or something like that. You're like, what the So it's like, out of all of these that are on the screen, it's the one you may have the least control over. Well, no, it is the one you have the least control. But at the same time, while having the least control, you could use it as a tactic. It's probably the dirtiest out of all of these. Free. The dirtiest free. And that's because there's no control. You can't. It's out of your hands. You know, things like ISP, internet speed, all that. Them things come into play. You don't know how your connection or interaction with whoever you're playing with, because remember, most of the time online is completely random people, so you never know how the experience is gonna go. That's why they put that disclaimer on the rating of the game that, you know, online experience may vary, and they are not lying. But you have players who specialize in taking advantage of that experience varying. The very real thing, and it's something you need to watch out for. Recognize when it's happening, and like I said, you can either fight fire with fire or just take it, man. It's online. It is what it is. Win or lose, that's that. But again, when it's competitive, you're gonna go with fight fire with fire. I could 9 times out of 10, I see that happening. Especially if it's a tournament. If it's a tournament, because you're looking and thinking to win at that point. So, yeah. As far as all these tactics, like I said earlier in the episode, is that all of them coincide with each other in some way. Because, you know, past episodes, like, I take offense to that, and the Why So Defensive episodes bring up some of these things mentioned. But bringing them up in that episode was specifically describing what they were. This is how to implement it pretty much into the mental aspect of playing. So, you know, I know some people are like, well, it's so familiar, because there's one term that I could have added on here, but like I said, since it was the last whole episode about it, and I kind of spoke on mind games in that episode briefly, is the conditioning. Conditioning is probably biggest thing when it comes to mind games. If I had to rate it amongst everything, because conditioning is making it work, making those mix-ups work, mix-ups in the 50-50s work. It's making the flowcharts work, taunting to work, counter picking, in effect, like all these, it's making it stick. Like conditioning would be that glue. It would be the glue. You know, glue is important to make something hold together. Cause man, when you condition your opponent, you damn near can do all of these that are listed. When they truly conditioned though. And now you're probably asking yourself, well, what about the player that refuses to be conditioned? Well, in a sense, they are still, like I mentioned in the previous episode, they are being conditioned to. And you like, well, how? Because they're not falling for this to happen. Well, here's the thing. You keep punishing and wrecking them for refusing to be conditioned, meaning they keep taking the same risk over and over. That is a form of conditioning. Meaning, because think about it. Say you're doing that same frame trap and you're trying to go for, say you have a antic in mind that you want to do. So you go for frame trap and then yet they keep trying to hop kick, they keep trying to down one you to death or just hit something. If they keep doing these things over and over, you recognize it and you punishing them for it. Guess what? That's a form of conditioning. And how they being conditioned to take the risk over and over. That's the conditioning. They keep taking the risk. Now, if you can get them to stop taking the risk, now your traditional plan, or not traditional, but your plan that you already deducted to do that, now they're conditioned under that. Now what you want to go and do in the first place, you can do, because now they're sitting there. Or now they switching up. Now they're not playing like how they want to play. Because you have, and the reason why I say this, because you have some players that will get frustrated because the plan that they're trying to execute doesn't work. So I always tell people, well, they keep doing this, it's your job to keep punishing it, because they may mess around and condition you into thinking, again, like I mentioned earlier, respect them too much. You think they not gonna do this, and then you mentally mix up yourself. And once you mentally mix up yourself, oh man, you about to have fun. Your battle is going to get that much harder. Now it's either, fight or flight at that point. And I hear so many players, get flustered and get bent out of shape when it doesn't go their way and they can't condition their opponent. They can't make this work. But man, he kept being retarded. How many times have you heard this? Kept being retarded and kept trying to hop kick it right here. Yeah, I'm plus. Well, here's the thing with that. In fighting games, it's usually a threshold when it comes to frames. Meaning, there's usually a threshold where you're so plus where you legit can't do anything, and then you're so negative to the point you really can't follow up or move with nothing for real. So you have to remember that as well. Of course, you have players that don't know frames at all, and they just do shit just to do shit. That does exist. I'm not gonna act like it doesn't, but you again have to be able to recognize and be aware. That word comes up a lot, awareness. I'm almost tempted to a point I may do an entire segment on awareness in fight game. Because it's neglected. And it's one of the key traits you need to have to deal with a lot of the things that you may fall victim to. Like, have you ever noticed some of the greatest players that you look up to and watch, their awareness and reaction to things is very high. That's part of what makes them hard to beat. Because in order to, like, it's important, a trait of adaptation. You have to be aware first to even be able to adapt. You have no awareness, how are you going to adapt to anything? You don't notice that said player is doing this when they get to this range. How are you going to adapt and punish to it? Or how are you going to adapt to it and punish it, excuse me. And that's definitely important. So that might end up being this episode, because I was kind of dancing around with what to talk about. So I don't know, I may do a 2-piece episode, because since, you know, the delay of the podcast of this episode happened to kind of push things out, and I would traditionally have a new episode about to pop off coming soon, not this Saturday but next Saturday, I would normally, you know, do that. So it may be a two-peat episode. We'll see. But back to this topic. But mind games, again, you have to realize this is just as much as a part of playing as actually sitting down and playing on the pad. And you have to be ready to combat these things just as much as you're ready to combat the character you're fighting, the matchup, the play style. Like, all of this syncs with each other. This is one reason why you hear fighting games isn't for everybody, because you may not be able to deal with mind games. You may not mentally have the fortitude and capacity to deal with it. That's a very real thing. And there's nothing wrong with it not being for you, but just know if you decide to play them that this is something you have to deal with. And hopefully you're prepared to. If you're not prepared to, find a mentor. You know, have them give you the rundown, the ropes and all that. And as part of being able to deal with mind games, like I said, is further building up knowledge, further putting yourself in position to understand these concepts that's on the screen right now. And of course, learning your general stuff, like your fundamentals and all that. Like I said, all of this marries together. So
yes. What kind?
It's all important.
Musical dope. You get high?
But
yes.
This is mind games in a nutshell.
Are you on a trip or something?
Yes. And I hope that, you know, after listening to this, that you have a better understanding that when you go back to the lab to practice things like that, that it'll be something that you'll begin to think about incorporating into your gameplay, as opposed to just going in practice mode and practicing combos and whatnot over and over. You know, because that's usually the main thing that most people do when it comes to practice mode. Like, most don't think of concepts and stuff like this. So that's why I love talking about these things, because they're usually cast to the wayside and not going over enough. And to me, it's important, especially if you aspire to become a better player. If you aspire to become a better player, these concepts that you tend to throw to the wayside are important for you to get to know, to get to understand, and to get, burnt into your mind as a player. Best to try not to neglect it. Neglect it, then you limit yourself. And then when you limit yourself, you then feel that ceiling that you say you feel, and breaking it is going to be like one of the toughest processes that you deal with. But I am going to, also give y'all the opportunity to maybe share your experiences, like dealing with mind games and dealing with stuff like that, or if you have any questions, things like that. I know I come across a lot of players, even some veteran players, or players that have been quote unquote playing for a long time, and they still are foreign to certain concepts. Because people got to remember, time means little to nothing compared to quality. Because a person that's been playing for 10 or however many still be a bum compared to a person who received the right kind of training and whatnot. They only playing for 6 months to only a year. They kind of already banging with you, if not past you. So that's a very real thing. But if anybody, wants to, further ask questions or share their experiences, the floor is open to do that. Because, this is another way, to be able to interact with you guys, like, directly, and just to see where y'all heads at when it comes to the topics that are presented. Like I always mention, that's why I started the podcast, too. As another form of interaction, and just to be able to talk and converse, because I like talking about fighting games. Like, they're so intricate. So many strategies, so many thoughts, so many concepts. And that's what makes it such a niche as far as the genres go, because, everybody can sit down and have fun with the general stuff, like your Call of Duties and your NBA, Mario, and all the general stuff. Like, those are just fun just because they're fun and quick and you can get into them. Fighting games is a niche. It's a special, place in the video game, niche, or a video game hobby. The stuff we like to play, it has its own spot. I do not know what you just said, but I saw Tekken, so you're good with me. I do not. That looks like Spanish. I don't want to profile or stereotype. But yeah, like I said, the floor is open. You guys want to further talk, further chat, the floor is open. I don't just want to, it's just me talking like it's school. This is a conversation. These podcasts are conversation. Yeah, we learning stuff, but conversation. I know one thing, as far as mind games, okay. I wish I knew how to speak that, because then I would be able to, the way I should. here. Hold on. All right. It's looking. Hold on. Since this episode is, there is a video. This is as well. I'm going to briefly play. Not gonna play it all the way through. First off, I'm gonna shout them out. Shout outs to 4A game. Or to give them a follow on their page. Switch this view up for y'all. Hold on, first let me stop this track.
This is how you order all this delivery food
so
for
much.
cheap. Okay, so first.
This is called teabagging, and it's a way to disrespect your opponent when they're down or stunned. Though you kinda have to use your imagination in Street Fighter because it doesn't look as convincing as it does in first-person shooters. On his journey to winning Capcom Cup 2016 and bringing home $230,000, NuckleDu teabagged his opponents in-game during crucial matches to get in their heads and compromise their gameplay.
Yep.
Boom! Stun!
We are seeing. Oh my god! NuckleDu!
In fighting sports, you see taunting all the time, and some of the greatest fighters have used it to throw off their
Definitely
opponent's mental
Muhammad
game.
Ali.
It's no different in fighting games, but as you'd expect, people react to it in different ways. Some will laugh it off, some will taunt back, and of course, some will get pissed off. Taunting has such a powerful effect on people that the Killer Instinct World Cup considered banning teabagging because an incident escalated into death threats on Facebook. Of course, this caused a debate in the FGC about the lack of e-sportsmanship, but what I found most interesting about this whole thing was the inherent power of pressing down a bunch of times. A stunned opponent is usually an opportunity to build meter by whiffing attacks, but more and more players seem to prefer doing some mental damage here instead. Arguments in favor of taunting usually involve
I mentioned mental thing as much as it playing on that pad and performing. People getting mad at that. Mad at the mental. And like I said, that's successful mind game.
how they're an integral part of mind games. But to know what that means, it helps to know how mind games work. Two major components of mind games are conditioning and emotional influence. Conditioning is when you make your opponent behave in a certain way so that later you can bait them into doing something
And the counter breaker,
great
it's
call.
huge.
or scare them into doing nothing.
From Phenom at just the right time. Here we go, command throw.
Yep. Command
Another
grab.
command
Oh
throw.
boy, I feel like
I remember this too.
something
Another
Phenom
command
loves to
throw.
do. The fourth one, you never know.
Yes, there it is, the fourth one.
In psychology, the two major types of conditioning are classical conditioning and operant conditioning. Classical conditioning is when a stimulus is able to trigger our reflexes, like when Pavlov's dog learned to salivate just by hearing a bell, or when a child cries at the sound of her father putting ice cubes in a glass. Operant conditioning is when we use rewards and punishment to control someone's decision-making, which is awesome for competitive gaming. In the 1930s, psychologist B.F. Skinner showed that he could control the voluntary behavior of rats and pigeons with an invention he made called the Skinner box. If a pigeon produced a desired behavior, like pecking a red disc, it would be rewarded with food, which would increase the chance of repeat behavior. This is called reinforcement. If the test subject failed to do something, it might receive an electrical shock, which would obviously decrease the chance of repeat behavior. This is simply called punishment. Operant conditioning is so effective, it's actually been used to train pigeons how to recognize signs, play ping pong, and distinguish impressionist paintings from cubist paintings, I kid you not.
Yep, that being said, teach. Shout outs to Core A Game. Subscribe to them. Follow their YouTube. Core A Gaming. be sure to subscribe and give a follow. I thought I was already subscribed to them. So I was actually just watching some Monday Rain. I thought about this. So my thought on that, well, I'm not following. But a lot of good information on it. If you're a competitive gamer, not just even fighting, because I think that this can apply to any type of fighting game or competitive channel. Definitely get a approval from me. Sure, I'll be sure to follow. Now, back to, but they brought up conditioning. Like I said, conditioning is a part of that. I stated it earlier that that's the glue to make things work. I see Sage, you said you teabag and you usually laugh when it happens back. I mean, yeah. Like I said, the response differs among people. You know, you could either laugh and go about it, or you get pissed off and is you however you react is that's your choice. That's what you decide to do. It's usually interesting and funny to see how people react to a mind game, because since you don't know what's necessarily going to happen, that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes watching matches interesting, partly because we don't know what's going to happen. So that element of surprise, it already is, you know, especially if it's, again, like I mentioned, if it's two rival players, like you saw the K-Brad and Knuckle Dude clip right there, and how they refused the handshake, and it was kind of, you know what I'm saying? You see what it could potentially do. So that's what makes mind games, the psyche of them, like, interesting, and it as a whole makes competitive gaming in general. Like, this is why we get the rage quitter. This is why we get the you know, well, part of why we could get the rage quitters, part of why we could get the bad sportsmanship and stuff like that. Where you get good sportsmanship, and you get, like I said, these tied to and linked to that. So it's a very real thing, and I hope that people, when they do play fighting games, that sit down and play them, you know, from the FGC aspect of it. Sit down and play them. Have to be prepared for these antics. Have to. They're gonna be a big part of you playing the match. So that teabagging that you saw, hacking the key charging, or the button input taunts, all of that kind of stuff, or if they sit next to you and they doing certain little quirks, or they sitting across from you, like, you know, welcoming you to, you know, bring it, or like I said, the poke chop rock and all that. Like, these are all factors that come into taunting, as I mentioned, as far as being a part of mind game. It's a big mind game though, because as you saw in the Corey gaming video, if you can control your opponent, oh man. If I can get you to get bent out of shape, I love it. Like I said, I love playing a player when I know they bent out of shape. Then I'm gonna further agitate them and throw them off even more. Then that's when you know, yeah, I might run the risk of not getting a handshake, but you know, when that does happen, I at least know that I got to him. And beautiful part about that is in fighting games, like say you're on the winners side of the bracket still, and you do that and you send them to losers, they're going through losers with a chip on their shoulder. And that chip may still be on their shoulder if they run back into you again, whether you later on get knocked into losers by somebody else or they make it to grand finals and have to fight you again. So again, when it comes to fighting games, remember that mind games are a very important concept. This is something that you need to learn what it is, why it happens, and how can you apply it to yourself as a player. And you learn how to apply it to yourself as a player, you're definitely going to open up another layer and break a limit that you may have at first thought you couldn't break, and eventually climb that ladder that you've been wanting to climb as far as getting better. I know one of my favorite moments of seeing a mind game take strong effect is Frosty Faustins. And it was between, of course, a rivalry was involved in this, so that made it even sweeter. Between K-Brad and Wolf Crow. We all, if you have any knowledge of Street Fighter competitively, you know how those two simply just, and during the fight, they talking trash on each other, doing little quirks, and it just made their battles that much more intense. Like whether it was the Frosty Faustins fight, and where, you know, Wolf Crone did this and told him get out of here and stuff like that. Because that went on to even more battles after that. Because remember, they fought each other on E-League as well. So it creates an interesting conflict. And again, when you're a competitive player, especially if you're in the FGC, play offline, go to tournaments and stuff like that, this is a very common thing that you may see. And it's something that I recommend you get used to. You're aspiring to compete competitive circuit of things. Because you can be competitive and not play in the circuit. That's, you know, competition is competition. A circuit is just a structured format to do so. But if you're going to join that circuit, you better be ready. That's like you playing the sport. If you want to play in the NBA, you better be ready what comes with it. If you want to play in the NFL, you better be ready for what comes with it. NHL, MLB, I don't know the acronyms for soccer. LS maybe, I don't know. I just took a shot at that. I'm not sure. But if you're planning to join these circuits, you definitely need to be prepared for that. For all the things mentioned when it comes to mind games and fight games, though, you need to be ready for these. These are some strong antics, but they can be strong. I recommend that you learn what they are, learn how to use them, and learn how to fight against them. Because you learn both spectrums, you're gonna be a hard player to beat. Hey, the reason why the greats are the greats is because they understand these concepts and they know how to use them and they know how to defend against them. And when you gotta fight an opponent like that, it can be strenuous to deal with. So again, mix-ups, 50-50s, flow charts, taunting, counterpicking, time scamming, flag utilization. And, you know, the honorable mention of conditioning. I kind of didn't put it on here because the whole last episode is talking about conditioning. So if you want to hear more about conditioning, refer to that episode. That entire episode was about that. It's on my YouTube channel. It's also archived on here if you want to watch it on here as well. But I know people tend to spend a lot of time on YouTube. Why I send the archives to them. Here to follow L Train Fighting Dojo. Once you know how to move and know your mains, best pokes, pressure tools, 50-50 mix-ups with punishers, you could, having the basics down definitely goes a long way. Then the mental part comes in later. You know, mind games usually don't fully take effect until an actual match is going on. You could practice these, like I said, the mix-ups, flowcharts, taunting and all that. Like these are facets that you can practice, but the mental part don't kick in for real until the actual match is going. Battle again, it's a battle of the minds, and you have to have a mind to battle against. So that's when that fully takes hold. This is part of what makes competition so fun, because it's a battle of wits. As much as it's a battle of reactions and stuff like that, it's also a battle of wits and mind. And that honestly is what keeps me competing, or part of what keeps me competing, and makes competing enjoyable. Because it's a test. It's a test of reactions, it's a test of wit, it's a test of fundamentals, it's a test of all this. That's what makes, as Taquito would say, fighting games great. That's why they are. That is why they are. That's why I continue to enjoy them, and will continue to enjoy them. Like, I'm probably gonna end up playing as long as I can. Still, you know, kick saying, look, man, ain't got the hands no more. You ain't got, you know, until I'm forced to stop. Because I enjoy them that much. I do. It's a guilty pleasure that I'm not afraid to admit to. But the armed and armored, you are absolutely correct though. Get those down. Definitely, you know, to bang with just about anybody. Wow, that gif is funny. I said, if anybody else questions, share their own experience playing or dealing with mind games, like I said, the floor is open. I got the tune vibing, so I know that's another reason why y'all like coming to the channel. I usually had tunes on deck. That's why I had to add the song title tool. Everybody be asking, yo, what's this? What's the name of that? I ain't never heard that. I need that. What's up with that? That track was cold. That track was fire. Okay, to mitigate that and help. Or like I said, I do know it's also Wednesday, so Wednesday night fights and stuff, LBC and all that is going. But I kind of just went on ahead and did it today because it got pushed back so much due to 2 weekends that things went down these past 2. I was like, let me do this because I do want to get to episode 9. I may end up doing a double header and do 9 and 10. Like back to back. Maybe like a Saturday and Sunday thing. The being Big Majin are 2 favorite. Oh dang, I'm a favorite with Fak. I'm still fairly getting comfortable with Fak as far as matchups. There's still a lot of matchups that I need to get comfortable with him in. But Lars is second nature. Like I pretty much, once I see it, I'm like, okay, all I need to do is peep the play style and I can go. Whereas Fak, like since he's the newer character and I haven't fought the entire cast with him yet, there's still stuff I'm getting used to. So, but he's definitely a fun character. That's why I had took a month off from playing Lars like at all. Just to dive into him and further understand him because he was a fun character. He does have his issues, like his hurt box needs to be addressed immediately. I don't know how that slipped past cutting room. You're standing still in the neutral and a sweep blatantly misses you, that is a problem. Like I saw that Safina video, you know, the low everybody uses. I think it's down back 3. I think, correct me if I'm wrong on the notation, but it's the low that puts her in Mantis. Well, she can go into Mantis. I won't say it puts her into Mantis. She got the option to go. But yeah, that went straight through his leg. Now I'm thinking to myself, like, this big ass character had a whole sweep go through him. Like, that's a problem. That's an issue. His hurt box issue definitely is. I don't know when the next update is supposed to be because I know it's supposed to be sooner than what it is right now, but Corona affected. So, like I said again, shout outs to Corona. Throwing off everything. But that's the reason for the delay on the update. It should have been out sooner, but their staff got cut down because, you know, having to do social distancing and just being hit. Like I said, the virus slowed things up. Virus is slowing up a lot of things. So you just have to further remain patient. And then now with this whole George Floyd situation, police and brutality and justice, a lot of these companies are taking time to get involved with that cause, which I applaud them for doing that. But my thing is, after this, you know, media sensation side of it is over with, will these same companies continue to do that? Or was it because it was a popular trend or topic at the time that you said, well, I need to get involved, or in hopes of, I don't want my company canceled and I lose, you know, hundreds to thousands to millions of dollars because I didn't get behind this cause? Like, you know, is it one of those, you know, half-hearted fair weather type of supports, or is it legitimate support? Do you legit feel that black people are disenfranchised in America? You feel that, you know, we face injustice all the time? Like, do you really feel that, or are you just part of a trend? You don't need no more trend. You need change at this. That's just me saying a little piece. I actually did a whole Facebook Live on my Facebook talking about this. I'm not gonna over dive into that. But back to the topic at hand. Mind games. Like I said, if anybody wants to share their experience or further talk about my floor is open. Got the tunes rocking and the vibes are good right now. So let me look and see. We got in here. I ain't here. Oh, my boy. Oh, my childhood. Well, not childhood. Well, I guess high school. My high school buddies is in here. Crazy. Call themselves Seiji Hito, aka my boy Delon. Shouts out to you for joining, man. Definitely appreciate it. But yeah, fighting games. One other issue that I do want to, what's going on, bro? One thing that I do want to say though, now this is also slightly off topic, but still referring to fighting games. Netcode. Oh yeah, netcode. Considering what we going through right now, pandemic, so there's no offline really. We need better netcodes for 2020 and beyond. Well, maybe not 2020, but 2021 and beyond. We definitely need that on point, because that's annoying to have to do. The fact that the standard right now, due to circumstances, is online, then it gotta be on point. Now I understand sometimes it's just people having trash internet, like they ISP ain't good, and or they modem router, whatever the case may be, isn't good, but that's not always the case. There's flat out a time where just your netcode for your game is bad. And with us having to be at home, we definitely need that, especially for fighting games. Like, online should be good in general for gaming, in my opinion, but for fighting games especially, because one frame can cause us to miss something. That's how intricate the timing is. Fighting games. One frame, if a frame drops, we could miss our opportunity. So that lets you know how important it is to have a good netcode fighting game. Like, as I mentioned, lag utilization being a mind game. You have players that will take this damn tactic and run with it. And because they know it gets under people's skin, they're gonna take full advantage of it. And even though online will never be offline, it never will be, it would be nice to at least have a decent experience. Because, like, for my game, Tekken, oh my god, Tekken 7's current online experience, atrocious, bad. And I only primarily really play it when I stream, just entertain content and stuff like that. So other than that, I'm not really playing. No offline. There's no offline tournaments going. And I don't participate in every online tournament. Not every single one. I play in them, but not excessively. Like, I know for the first time in a while, I gathered with the homies at my boy All Cap's house. This past Friday that just passed. And man, when I tell you that was refreshing, that was my first offline session nearly 3 months. So it's like, But I will wholeheartedly admit my timing was off so bad. Because first offline session is wow. Second, we playing on PS4. I'm primarily playing day. And yeah, them were the main two things. I was thinking of a third, but then I thought about it. It ain't really a third. Not really. It'd just be something random. But the difference, man. Yeah, wow. So it felt good to be able to do it. That's why I say, as far as netcode needs to be improved going forward. You need to implement rollback GGPO, because like I said, as much as I don't like MK11 as a game, they damn sure have solid online. Same with Killer Instinct, damn solid online. If I were into them games, I would be playing them solely off the fact that their online is good. But people need to model off of those models of online, because that plays a part in your game's lifespan too. Have solid online. If you have solid online, people are always going to be playing your game, because they could sit at home and they can get solid experience. They don't have to go to a friend's house, offline game lounge, wherever, get a pleasant gaming experience. I mean, of course, you can still go to those places just for the sake of eating up in person and hanging out, but I'm just speaking from general gaming perspective. That's important. Just had to vent about that a little bit, because we've been cooped up playing online only for these months, and y'all know me. I use online, but I don't really care for it as far as the experience. That's, like I said, due to the current netcode. Netcode gets better, and less and less my grievance with it existing. But back to the original topic, mind games. I hope that if you're a new player, if you're intermediate, or if you're advanced, that mind games is something that will always be in your mind when it comes to fighting games, and work at developing the facets that I mentioned. Better implement, basically up your mind game. All the facets mentioned, you can train those things, get better. Like I said, let's go back to those mentioned factors. You can tighten up mix-ups, 50-50 flow charts, taunting antics, counter picking. Time scamming, lag utilization. And people are talking about, well, how can you improve counter picking? Ain't counter picking just choosing, said thing to counter that? Yes and no. Yes part is that the actual concept, counter picking as a concept, yes, you are absolutely correct. The reason why I say no, because you could pick said counter pick and not be able to play to the level to where it's truly a counter pick, and you end up losing anyway, even though you tried to counter pick. So that's important to realize. I meant to mention that a little earlier, but it just came back to my mind. But yes, counter picking is only truly effective if you understand and know how to utilize it. Otherwise, you'll end up falling flat on your face. And then, well, that's not a mind game I can really use, because I can't fully utilize it the way I want to, or should. So that's important. And again, time scamming, you can get better at that just by simply using any of the other facets and paying attention to time. Like I mentioned the scenario where, you know, round 1, 2, 3, whatever, final round, fight, start off, say I do a grab or a low or whatever, then I bag off, burn some time down, then I may go in, do another little, say, blender of frame traps to further burn down time. Like I may not be doing damage as a whole, like direct damage, but I may just be putting you a blender of traps to get you scared and condition you. But at the same time, I'm burning time off the clock too. And that alone will get you to react in whatever way I want you to. So, like I said, that is something you can also perfect. You have to be, when it comes to fighting games, you have to have an open mind to concepts, especially concepts that may be way foreign to you. This is why I tell people it's important to get mentor, someone who's a bit more experienced than you, a person who may understand these concepts that you don't understand. They could pass this on to you. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, fighting games can be daunting, and having that mentor, having somebody you can look up to and show you the ropes will help you. It will help you. I keep it 100 though. It can hurt you if the teacher's not a good teacher. That's the time when it hurts you. And that's with anything. If you're not taught well, you know, you're gonna have your stumbles. And with this, you have a teacher that's not good at teaching or relaying information, you're not gonna be steered in the direction that you need to go to. Do I remember Def Jam? Of course I remember Def Jam. Who doesn't? Who doesn't know about Def? Who don't know about that? I honestly would legit be shocked somebody didn't know about that. That would really legitimately amaze me. But then again, and I think the reason why it would amaze me is because, you know, so much pop culture stuff is infused into that game. It's been referenced. It's like, so I don't know. But yeah, of course I remember it. I definitely remember. That's one of the games I played. Vendetta, Fight for New York. We're not even gonna bring up Icon because Icon was just pure trash. I'm sorry. Like, they tried to implement a new little concept with the little turntable music explosion effect thing, but it was a dumpster fire. Sounds cool as a concept, but executed poorly. That's that. But Vendetta and Fight for New York was flames. Love both of those. Hopefully we can get possibly a new one. Hell, I'd be cool with a remaster or a remake. But if we got a new one, that'd be cool too. Specifically designed upcoming, because remember, we are about to start a new generation. Console generations tend to last, 7 to 8 years? We are at the dawn of the turning point of another console generation. I don't know, we'll see. Just hopeful thinking. Now, there is something I did think about when it comes to mental part fighting games, and that's, maybe this will also help you understand thought process of a player. That's the casual mindset and the competitive mindset. I could have threw that in here as far as the slide, but no, I felt this was just something that could be said. course, because I think all of us pretty much understand when someone is casual, they typically tend to lean toward just playing for fun and the BS around. Just to pass time, whereas competitive, it's going to be this that we're discussing and going now. However, mutual thing that both can share that they may not like losing. Because you ever heard of the term? Well, no. Most may have not heard of the term because this is something that our homeboys primarily use. We like to say the hood good player. By the hood good player, what I mean by that is a person who has this false proclamation of being good because they beat everybody in their hood. Hence, hood good. Then when they play a truly competitive FGC player and get destroyed, they realize in fact that they're not good. Like, that's actually how my entire fighting game journey started. Yeah, that's how I started. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead. Son, face real quick when I say this. I usually tell this story. That is how my FGC journey started. I thought I was good. I had that mentality, I'll bust anybody up that want to play Tekken. I knew all the little 10-hit combos. I knew this, that, and the third. And I thought I was good. Boy, was that far from the truth. I was a bum. Like, complete bum. Like, know nothing about frame data, about punishing. Didn't know much about offense for real. Now, I will say this, though. I did have a natural knack playing defense. And to a sense, I guess, neutral. I'm a patient player. Like, that's just a trait of mine. And it was there even when I was a bum, but it wasn't properly manifested. So, the way my FGC journey started, meeting all of the guys, Korn, of course, the founder of Korn, Giannis the God, really old, Ali Vega, Ryan James, Forrest Footwork, All Caps, JDM, Seth LOL. List goes on. Korn was like the United Nations. We had everybody. Our clique, in our gang, our group. But back to the story. Oh, I meet him. It was a mutual homeboy that we had named Torrance, but we call him Bucci. And we went to high school with each other. He also ended up working at a place called Meyer here in Michigan, on 12 Mile and Telegraph, Southfield. We run into each other, we recognize each other, start catching up, talking, and this, that, and the third. And he said, I got this dude Tekken that's a beast. That and the third, me, my hood good kicked in. I bust anybody up Tekken. I bust. So at the time, they called him Brian. And I knew him by his old gaming tag at the time, which was Ali Vegas. Even though I wasn't in the FGC, I knew of the FGC. During that time, I even knew about Justin Wong, Alex Valle, Sanford Kelly, Justin Wong, Yipes. I knew about them even then. So I wasn't a stranger to it. I wasn't oblivious to that world. Especially if you were a fan and you read old books like Tips and Tricks and On Game Facts and all that. You knew about them sites, you knew about that. But, back to the story. So, we all meet up on one night. It's crazy that this night, nearly 10 years ago. It'd be 10 years exactly next fall. But so that happens. I meet him. I meet All Caps. I pretty much was meeting everybody that, you know, who are like the bros now. I was meeting them all during this period. And I played him $60 and lost 60. Like, he destroyed me. Like, it was bad. Like, I think back sometimes to that and be like, damn, that was ass. So, and they would do that to a lot of people, but they wouldn't come back. Like, they would get beat, get their money taken, and never come back. Me, it was different. You know, I endured my lumps and got motivated. I wanted to get good because, you know, I finally hit that realization that I wasn't really good. So, continue to get whooped on. Now we're moving into 20. And 2012 hits and Act 2 drops. I go and train. I disappear for a bit, train. I come back. They take me through the gauntlet. Corn HQ, which was Brian House on a house right off of McNichols, aka 6 Mile on Ward Street. And went over there. I beat everybody but him. I lost him again, but it was more competitive. He still was substantially better. But you know, he could tell, yeah, I put time in and I actually tried to improve. And from there, you know, the journey began. And I missed YumaCon. I wanted to go, but something came up. That was a dope YumaCon. That was when everybody came. Because Fighting GM, Justin Wong, everybody was here in Detroit that year. So I had to witness it on stream. It sucked so bad. But either here or there. So that was toward the end of 2012. And I remember going into 2013, Final Round is rolling around. Final Round was my first big, huge, major tournament. And being a new player, you know, new players usually get ate up alive at the tournament. That was like the Super Bowl for Tekken. Being a new guy at the time, coming in and placing as well as I did, it was like 300 or 320 players or something like that year. And I placed in the top 50, being brand new. And, you know, that's not common. People look at that and be like, oh, that's dope. Tournament's not easy. And I ended up losing. Person who knocked me out of the tournament was my dude Overall. He doesn't really play much nowadays, I don't think, but he knocked me out. I remember that vividly. King player, and I didn't know what to do against a King. Like, I was lost. But performing that good definitely motivated me. Matter of fact, my whole Corn squad did that year, and Seth beat Infiltration in Street Fighter Cross Tekken. We all know, you know, at the time, he was the best player playing at the time. So, yeah. I was definitely thrilled with how my first tenor being at such a big event. Here I was on a roll. Next up, after that, Combo Breaker. I made top 8. My mind. that wasn't something. That was a goal that I was looking to reach a little bit later than that. But your second event, and for you to pull that off, ridiculous. I don't know what it was, and that was UFGT. That was before Combo Breaker existed. Combo Breaker came after Keith stepped down. Homie Rick the Hado and his wife Caitlin took over. Formed Combo Breaker. This was that time. And making it that far and being alongside some players that I watched and look up to, like Fighting GM and Teo, and like being up there with those names, it was like I was like nervous wasn't even the word for me. I didn't expect to do that well. I was, not only did I make top 8, I started on the winner's side. So it was like so I got 5th. Then there was another event after that. I got top 8. And after that was Summer Jam. I got top 8 there. That's when my name started to kind of jump on notice. Like, yo, this guy is making waves here. And the rest is history. Fast forward all the way to now, and here I am now. Definitely a humble beginning. I'm sorry if I broke into story time, but we vibing right now. I've kind of said a lot of what I say as far as mind game. That the floor was open, so not too many took the floor. I just said, you know what, we could do a little story time. Why not? But as far as the topic though, mind games, I hope help you further understand them, how to apply them, how to combat against them. Little intricate pieces of them. I'm hoping that this episode really does help and assist you with the whole purpose. Podcast is to further help understanding fighting games better. With this, I hope also, because even I dropped some real life stuff. All around, I just hope just to not just entertain, so help. I can do those things. That's to me. No matter how many watch. While it's nice to get a big crowd, that if just one person this podcast, you know, bad people I've started it reach out to me, say, man, started this alongside stream of gameplay. I enjoy those too. And those are fun, of course, because it's gameplay. Ain't really as serious, you know. So able to start kind of like an educational thing. Besides that definitely. I'm gonna continue it. Definitely gonna continue. Even then, it don't even have to just be just fighting game. Honestly, cause it is called Train of Thought. So our thoughts come out here. But I've definitely been enjoying. I didn't think I would ever start my own podcast. Ever thought myself as it continues to grow, you know, I'm hoping to get to a point where I do iTunes, Spotify, and it does reach that point. Like I said, growth is nice regardless. I'm no stranger. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks to everybody that tuned in to this. I definitely again had fun chilling and chopping it up. So be sure to follow and subscribe. I also plan pro event month. I'm trying to plot as far as weekend and availability. I don't know. I might have to wait till July. I originally was aiming for this month, but I'm looking at my weekend. It's seeming like I got something up about most of June. So I'm gonna dance with it and see what I can do. If it does not happen this month, definitely aiming for July. About it. July 4th is on. I might just aim for that day. July 4th is Saturday this year. So that might be when I do the July 4th. Give people to something to look forward to on the 4th. So yeah, that might be the move. That might be the move. But again, be sure to follow and subscribe on here. Follow my YouTube or subscribe to my YouTube page, L Train's Fighting Dojo. And yes, this archive will be uploaded to there immediately following this live broadcast. Also, follow me on Twitter at LTrain_313. And also follow me on that Instagram, Train the Locomotive. That's all together word, but in between Locomotive is HA. Type that in. My face is right there. I'll pick. That dude's look for this mug. That's me. But again, thanks so much to the folks that did stop by and tune in. Said this will be highlighted on this channel, but like I mentioned, it will also go to the YouTube page. Check it out. Either or. I'm thinking about maybe doing a small little gameplay stream. I'm probably gonna hop in the shower real fast. Time when I was gonna get in the shower was for the podcast. Somebody else is in the shower. How'd that go? I said, well, I did say I was gonna start this 7:30. Trying to stick to it. I'm gonna hop off here. Didn't know how I feel after I get out the shower. I may return with a gameplay. Again, thanks for tuning in to Train of Thought episode 8. Don't mind me. As I mentioned, since the delays happened with this episode, 9 and 10 may possibly be a double header. I'm still dancing around with that idea. We'll see. If I'm gonna do a double header, it has to be a weekend where I have absolutely nothing going on. Nothing. If not, episode 9 is definitely coming. And it'll just be normal. But I have an appointment with the shower. Boy, L Train.